Lab Practice 1 here is our server. That's been set up to boot from a disk image of Windows 2008 R2. So we're going to highlight this one and going to press the start button. That's going to power up this virtual computer. It's going to find that ISO file and start loading the Windows installation files. Okay, first step here, English, US, all the defaults are fine. Go ahead and press next. Install now. Okay, here we go. We get to choose our edition of Windows Server. We are going to be using Enterprise Full Installation. Make sure you don't choose Server Core. That's a command line only nuts and bolts type thing. So don't choose that one. Choose Full Installation of Enterprise. And next. Now we get to sign our life away. If you want to read all that agreement, you're more than welcome to. It's quite long. We're going to accept it and press the next button. Now we don't have an existing operating system to upgrade from, so we certainly can't choose the first option. We're going to choose Custom Advanced to install a new copy of Windows. Okay, this is showing our hard disk. Now, we have created a virtual hard drive for this virtual machine. That's what it's seeing. It's not seeing the actual hard disk on the host machine. It is seeing a virtual disk file that we have associated with this virtual machine. Happens to be 30 gigs in size. Now, if we wanted to do any formatting or anything else to this disk, we could press the drive options and would give us several things we could do with that disk. I'm just going to press the next button. That is going to create a 30 gig partition inside this hard disk and work with it from there. Once you press the next button, it will start its processes of installing Windows, and we'll come back whenever this process is done. Okay, the install is done, and now we are prompted to change or actually set our password. This password belongs to the built-in administrator account who has control over the entire server. So we're going to use the word password with a capital P and the numeral 1 after it. We're going to confirm that in the second box, type it again, and press the little blue arrow. Okay, it set our password. We're going to press OK on that and let it create our desktop. Okay, so we have a server installed. We're looking at the desktop. So now what? Well, let's have a look here. Automatically popping up here in just a second should be the initial configuration tasks window. This will guide us through a few steps that normally occur after we install server. First step here is activate Windows. Type in the product key to make sure your server copy is valid. We're going to skip that step. We're in a testing environment or a lab environment. There's no need for us to activate Windows in this setup. Next thing is set time zone. We're going to change the Pacific time here to our central time from US and Canada. So I am going to change time zone here and choose it out of the list, central time. And make sure your new time is going to be correct. This is not correct for me. I'm working on an old snapshot that I made last night around 10. So I'm going to go ahead and change my time as well. So I set my time zone, but I have to change my time now. So I'm going to type in here 10. It's actually 7:20 right now. 7:23. We'll go with that, and it's PM. So we'll lock that in. All right. Next in the list is configure networking. We have to give the server a network address or an IP address so it can play on a network. Let's click that link there, and it takes us to network connections. On local area connection, right-click this guy and choose properties. Click the IP version 4 from the list here and click the Properties button. Now we're going to choose Use the following IP address and give it 192.168.1.11. As soon as you click into the next box, it should recognize that as a Class C private IP address and give it the default Class C subnet mask. We're going to leave a default gateway blank for now because we have no need of getting out of our local network, and that's what gateways are used for. So no need for that. And DNS servers we're going to leave blank for now. Those will come into play later on. We'll get to that. Okay on that. And we're going to close on this to lock those settings in. Now we can close network connections and move on to the next item in our list. Provide computer name and domain. If we look over here, our current computer name is WIN and a lot of letters. I'm not sure about you, but I'm not a big fan of typing, much less typing that many random characters. So we're going to have to be referencing our computer name throughout the semester. So I like something that's nice and easy to remember so I don't have to type all that mess. Let's click that, provide computer name domain, and this pops up. Pay attention here. This I see this all the time. People put in what they want for the computer name in this box here, computer description. This has nothing to do with your computer name. That's just for kind of a friendly description, maybe where the server is located or what the server is used for. Nothing to do at all with your computer name. Let's press the change button here. This will get us to where we can actually change our computer name. And here it is. Let's highlight over that. We're going to type in DC1. And we'll get to why we call this DC1, those particular letters, later on in the semester. Let's go ahead and press OK. It's going to tell us about restarting the computer. We're going to press OK on that. And we're going to press this close button here. And now it's going to prompt us to actually restart the computer. And we'll come back when this is fully restarted. Okay, so we are restarted. And we have this Control-Alt-Delete screen. Be careful here because Control-Alt-Delete really doesn't work in a virtual machine. Instead, we have to use the Control key on the right-hand side of the keyboard, hold that down, and tap the Delete key. Now we have our logon screen. We can use our password 1 to log in. Now we have our desktop. And we should get our initial configuration task window back, and there it is. Now, we've already done all the stuff here in the number 1. We could move on to numbers 2 and 3 if we were in a production environment. We're not, so we're going to close this initial configuration task screen. And the next screen to pop up should be Server Manager. Let's minimize all these nodes here. So Server Manager is set up a lot like you might be used to seeing the MMC setup with Windows. We have our nodes on the left and we have the reading section on the right. So whatever you click on here, the contents are going to show on the right hand side. So the first thing I want to talk about is roles and features. Let's click on the roles node. A role is a primary function. That's one of the main things that the server is responsible for doing. Let's have a look at some of the roles that we can choose from. I'll click that button and I'm going to skip over this introduction page here. And these are some of the roles we can choose from. We have a few Active Directory roles. We'll learn about Active Directory a little bit later. It's to make the server participate in a directory services type network. We can make it an application server. We can provide some network services with DHCP and DNS. We can provide file sharing, some other network policy services here. We can make this server a web server by installing the IIS role. And you can read the other ones as well. So these are primary functions, and we can add as many primary functions, as many roles as we want to, but we have to be very mindful of how many we add on servers, because each role that you add is going to use up some resources. And when clients are accessing the server to get those services provided, the server has to do that much more work. So we want to be very mindful of how many roles we add to our servers. Cancel on that. Okay, now let's look at features. Where a role is a primary function, you can think of a feature as maybe a supporting actor. Okay, so roles are the stars of the show, features are the supporting actors. They're very important to have around, but they are not the main functions, okay? Let's have a look at a few of the features that are available to us. We have some application server features like .NET Framework. We can add some security features such as direct access, some high availability features like failover clustering, and down here we have some load balancing down here. We have some internet printing features. We have some mail server features. We can add a watered down mail server. It's not quite as robust as Microsoft Exchange mail server, but it gets the job done somewhat. We have some Telnet features. I rarely use Telnet except for to use a client to troubleshoot various network problems. And the list goes on of supporting functions or features that a server can do. And just like with roles, we also have to be mindful of how many features that we install on our server, not just because of resource utilization, but also because every feature is going to install a different service or a different set of things going on in the background that could be exploited by an attacker. So the fewer things we have running, the less surface area that we have for an attacker to take advantage of. So be mindful of the services and supporting features that we add to our server. Cancel that. Let's have a look at the other nodes we have. Diagnostics to help us troubleshoot problems. So the event viewer node is where Windows is going to log all the activity happening under the hood. So the application log, system log, all of these are going to contain logs of activity that we can look at to gather information about various problems that may be happening on our server, and that will help us diagnose issues. The performance node will contain our performance monitor, where we can look at real-time performance info to troubleshoot maybe a slow performance issue. Our configuration node will have some other options for us, like the task scheduler, so we can automate tasks to happen at certain times. Using the Windows firewall to control network access in and out of the server. The services for controlling the various underlying application services that are going on behind the scenes, and the local users and groups, where obviously our users and groups are going to be living. The users container will contain our only user really we have on the server right now is our built-in administrator. He's the guy in charge of the whole server. And we have some groups that are built in. We can add users to for various functions, and you can read the descriptions there and get an idea of what those groups are for. The storage node is where our disks are going to be displayed to us, and we can work with them. We have the disks here, and we have some details down here. We will cover the disk management node in Chapter 3. And also in the storage node, we have the Windows Server Backup utility we can use to perform backups of the server. We'll discuss backups in a later chapter as well. So a quick rundown of the Server Manager screen.